Hey book girlies, I'm Sarah.
Hey gamer guys, it's Ian.
And you're listening to a pod of sass and sarcasm.
So,
Can we just jump into it and then do like the pleasantries later?
I've heard you have completed your book.
I have. I'm not sure if we're gonna split this up into multiple episodes or if we're gonna do one gigantic episode because this is 5 chapters, which is the most we've ever done. And also, I'm flying blind because I don't have notes with me because literally moments ago, I would say maybe 5 minutes ago is when I finished it. And I was not writing notes because I just needed to get through it. Because if I had to sit and write notes, I would have died, probably. I have so many thoughts. But we'll do some magic of editing and make it so that this isn't the first thing we talk about. We'll do our whole cute little intro and everything. So, I've finished Here There Are Monsters by Amelinda Berube. And boy, do I have words. So as a recap, Skye and Deidre Mackenzie are sisters. They're about 3 years apart, with Skye being the older sister. Deidre goes missing the night before Halloween, seemingly disappearing into thin air without a trace. Deidre had always been weird. Her whole life she was imaginative and prone to fantasy, and she was bullied because of it. But in the months leading up to her disappearance, she had been acting weirder than usual. Skye and Deidre used to play a game called Kingdoms, where Skye was the Queen of Swords and Deidre was every queen. Skye always had to defend Deidre, both in their game and against the real bullies who picked on Deidre. At one point, a boy named Tyler was picking on Deidre, and Skye nearly drowned him in an effort to get him to stop. And he definitely stopped bullying her. But Skye was horrified with herself and refused to play Kingdoms, refused to be the Queen of Swords, and generally refused to defend, protect, or even interact with Deidre. When the Mackenzies moved, presumably to remove Deidre from her bully-infested environment, Skye basically acted like Deidre didn't exist, that she herself didn't exist before the move. In her attempt at a fresh start, she put Deidre out of her life, to the point where Deidre befriended some spooky entity of the woods and either ran away from reality or was taken by the forest. Skye eventually learns, or rediscovers, it's not quite clear, that the forest is home to some magical beings, with whom she's bargained to get Deidre back. If Skye passes the forest's trials, she and Deidre walk free. But if she fails, the woods keep both Skye and Deidre forever. In an attempt to get Deidre back, she revealed her deep, dark secret to William, Kevin, and Sophie, the invaders, according to Deidre. William learns of the magic of the woods and is roped into the bargains. He is tasked with getting his dad's blood to bring a bone puppet guide to life. And this guide will presumably guide them to Deidre. After, quote-unquote, accidentally shooting his dad, he brings the blood, and the guide is brought to life and leads Skye and William to a secret tunnel. So they go into this tunnel, and it's very spooky, and there's, of course, all of these roots that are... Where are they coming from? We don't know.
Kind of Alice in Wonderland and Caroline-esque.
Yes. You mean Coraline?
Caroline. Button Eyes McGee movie.
Yes, very Alice in Wonderland, Coraline type stuff. So yes.
Wonderline?
What?
You made fun of me saying the wrong thing. Now I get to get you.
What did I say?
Alice in Wonderline.
Whatever.
Payback. Immediately.
Okay. So...
Let me interrupt you again.
What now?
Nothing.
Okay. So they're going through this really long corridor. They eventually lose sight of the guide, but there's like one way for them to go, so they just keep going through this tunnel. And there's these roots that they have to climb over, and sometimes the passage is very narrow, sometimes it's really wide, and it just seems very distorted, kind of like Alice in Wonderland with those like different kinds of tunnels that she had to go through kind of thing. And then eventually Skye notices that the ground is soft and kind of has like a mossy texture, but she's like, it's somehow familiar. And then she realizes that the walls are not just like dirt, it's actual walls like that in a hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly she feels like a very familiar sensation, and she's trying to figure this out. And then they walk into what I guess could be considered like a cave room or a cavern kind of thing. And she's like, oh, I know this place. I know where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And William's like, where? What is this? And she's like, this is the basement of our old house.
Oh, wow. Other people are living there now.
And no, it's a hallway, I whisper, like in a house. We stand there, peering uselessly into the dark. Somewhere water is dripping. Nothing moves. The ground between the roots has grown spongy, though it's still hard and steady underneath. Cautiously, I crouch down to touch it. It squishes wetly, fibrous, though too short and regular for grass. Carpet. I lurch to my feet, away from it, scrubbing my hand against my jeans. Sky? I'm okay, I say. My voice is thin, too high. I'm okay. I'm fine. This is really fucked up is all. It's their castle, William says. And though he takes my hand, clutches it, he gives me a frail, uneven smile. Of course it is. How long is the tunnel we clamber through? It's an eternity, a maze. Eventually it opens up to a wide cavern, its floor humped and snaking, gleaming in places with water that throws back the blue-white light from the phone. The wall across from us is dimly visible, marbled with green and black, and like the hallway, its bones are vertical. I don't know what that means. What does it mean that the bones are vertical?
Bones of the hallway? I don't know either.
Okay. I thought I was, like, losing my mind when I was reading that.
Could it be referring to, like, slats?
I guess. At least there's more space here, though I'm careful not to step in the puddles, reminded of the floor of the swamp, its sudden, unpredictable depth. I don't question how I know which way to go until I reach out automatically to grasp the wooden post, topped with a familiar polished knob that stands straight up and regular among the grasping roots. At the bottom of the set of stairs. I pull my hand away, fold my arms. What's wrong? I want to say it makes no sense, but that's not really true. And that's not the worst part. There's a dream logic to it, an inevitability. We're in my old house, I tell him, climbing carefully over the roots cascading down the stairs. In the basement. Watch your step. So then they go up into the kitchen, and it's got creepy black water filling the sinks, and it's like overgrown with the forest. You know how when abandoned houses have like plants growing in them and like moss on the walls and all this kind of stuff? That's what it kind of reminds me of just kind of where the line between where the outside begins and the house ends is very, very blurred. It's just like nature is kind of going back and reclaiming the house. So it's definitely not the real house. It's a dream version of it, but it's just really weird and spooky and creepy. So they go up into the kitchen and they're like, okay, what is this place? They look into the dining room and they notice that the light outside is very like Twilight-esque. And they go into the living room where there's like the front window that looks out into a neighbor's cherry blossom tree. And Sky knows what's happening. She keeps talking about how she's dreading what's coming next. And it makes me, as the reader, extremely nervous because I'm like, you know what's coming next, but I don't know what's coming next. What are you talking about? And she was saying, yeah, I know that tree, and I know the path that goes right behind it. And I'm like, okay.
The path that goes right behind it is to the river.
Yes, which, okay, when she starts talking about the path, I'm like, okay, I kind of know where this is going. But then I keep thinking back to the dreams that she's had so far. A lot of the nightmares that she's talked about are very odd and very specific, and several of them have been about what she did to Tyler. There was one she had, I think it was in the last episode or one of the last episodes, where she was walking down that path and it was William behind her instead of Tyler. And I was like, what does that mean? And I was going to go and like look into what that would mean, but then I was like, I'll wait and see if it's explained later. And it is sort of explained, not really, but whatever. But that's what I think is coming next is...
The premonitions of the dream.
So they're looking out the front window. She sees the path. She knows what's coming next. And William doesn't. William's like, so where do we go from here? Where's the guide? And she's like, it's down over there. And he's like, okay. They start walking down the path, and the whole time she's like, no, I don't want this to be happening. This can't be happening. And that makes me really nervous. I'm like, why is it? I mean, other than, yeah, you feel super guilty about what you did to Tyler, why is it a problem that you have to go down that path again? And why is it a problem that William's there with you going down that path?
The foreshadowing of sacrificing him, I think.
That's what I was thinking too.
But at the same time, he's made payments too. More payments than Sky has.
Yeah, I agree. There's no sign of our guide, but I think I know which way we're supposed to go. The same way I've gone so often in my dreams. The one I can't forget. It's not even that far. The path leading down to the valley, into the violet shadow, stands untouched. The yellow line on the asphalt gleams in the twilight, a long plunge between the banks of the trees on either side, the hills looming taller than they should. I clutch the straps of my backpack, unable to look away. I won't go down there. Not again. Sky? William prompts uncertainly. Where are we? Is this somewhere you know? Sort of. The sound bleeds out of my voice, leaves it a whisper. This way. I step onto the path. I'm also, like, reliving the fact that I just read this, and I'm dying, and I want to die, and this is so sad. Okay, so the next chapter...
Oh, that's just one chapter. We have 5 more to go?
We have 3 more to go. I walked through a couple chapters right there. But the next chapter starts where they are on the path towards, and they're, like, arriving at the river, at the site where she nearly drowned Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
And then we jump back into a flashback where she and Deidre are sitting near the river, and Deidre is just, like, taking pages out of her notebook and crumpling them up and throwing them into the river. I lay next to her under the greening willows, my sword tossed in the grass beside me, poking the water with a long stick as she rips her math notebook to shreds, page by page, grim and systematic. The water devoured the pieces. She'd gotten detention the day before for losing it. When it resurfaced in her backpack, crudely rendered, dicks adorned every page. So basically, somebody took her notebook and drew dicks all over it. Mm-hmm. She got detention for not having her notebook, which I'm like, what school does she go to that they're like, you lost your notebook? Detention. That's wild to me.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
So crazy.
Her mouth was marked by an ugly gash, a bloom of bruises. She wouldn't tell me how she'd gotten it. My heart gave another twist of rage every time I looked at her. They'd never dared to actually lay a hand on her before. It was Tyler, wasn't it? I said. It was always Tyler. Never so you could prove it, but it was him. Pulling the strings, inventing the names. For no reason, as far as I could tell. Because she was prey. It had started with little things. Petty things, making fun of the way she laughed, pulling her hair when he sat behind her on the bus, and when she accused him, protesting that he would never. He didn't want to get fleas. And when all of his little henchmen hopped on the bandwagon, sharpening their pitchforks, he thought it was hilarious. And that is so painful to hear, because we didn't really know what her bullies did. This is really the first time that we really see how people treated her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just I would never touch her hair. I don't want to get fleas. Like, that's so mean. And taking her notebook and drawing penises all over it and all the other shit that probably happened. And there is stuff that, and like, now he hit her?
Yeah.
That's horrible. And I'm not saying he deserved what he got, because he didn't. But, god damn, like that, like, why are kids so mean? I don't know. This just, like, it really broke my heart to read this part about basically what was going on. And Deidre doesn't actually say to Sky that she needs... I mean, she does say, you need to do something, you're the Queen of Swords. Mm-hmm. But she doesn't say it the way that I've been anticipating she's been saying it. Because Sky is always like, oh, well, Deidre made me. She said I had to do it. Deidre was saying it kind of in a forlorn, like, wistful way, being like, I wish you could do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And Sky's like, well, maybe I can. Maybe I'll do something that won't leave marks, though. Water doesn't leave marks. And Deidre's like, what the fuck? Like, even Deidre's like, what are you talking about? But then she gets kind of excited, like, oh my god, my sister's gonna stand up for me again, you know? He's the warlord, Deidre said darkly. All the goblins dance for him. She threw the last handful of confetti, dabbed carefully at her face, wincing. You're the Queen of Swords. You have to do something. So maybe we need to capture the warlord, I said it so calmly. Icy reason. The sun glinted on the water, the unfolding leaves. Everything was so sharp, so clear. And make him sorry, Deidre glowered, then sighed. Yeah, right. He's getting cocky. Usually they don't leave marks. We can't do anything that leaves marks. I trailed my stick in the water, ignoring Deidre's look of surprise. Water doesn't leave marks. I'll take care of this, I said. I will. By wood, stone, water, and bone. The thing is, it was her choice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she was always like, well, Deidre made me do it. Deidre made me drown Tyler. No.
Mm-mm.
She was like, I'm gonna fucking make him pay. Which, I get that. I get that sisterly protection of, like, if I saw my sister beaten up and dicks all over her notebook, I feel like I would want to do the same exact thing. I don't think I would act on it, but I get where she's coming from.
She's seething with rage right now.
Yes. And especially because in this chapter, they also talked about how she felt like she couldn't do anything because when they did speak up, either the adults didn't believe them, or if they did believe them, they made the kids apologize, but it was always with, like, smirks. And there would sometimes be lectures by the social workers from the school being like, no bullying, and, like, nothing was actually happening to get them to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So it's shitty all around because nothing was happening. And so she felt, I don't want to say she felt like she had no choice, because she knows she had a choice. Right there she said, like, she made it a choice.
Mm-hmm.
But I do get that kind of very helpless feeling that she had as well. And that just seething with rage. So William and Skye have arrived at that particular location where she had tried to drown Tyler.
Purposefully tortured him.
Yes.
Didn't try to drown him.
Yes.
She was very deliberate to not drown him.
I'm not sure. I feel like it was attempted murder. I feel like she wanted to drown him and then backed off. And then was like, don't you dare tell anybody about this. So I think she wanted to torture and wanted to make him suffer, but then maybe thought better of it and thought that him being scared of her was better than him being dead. Because the way that she told it to William, Sophie, and Kevin was that it could have looked like an accidental drowning.
Yeah, but that was the threat because she had already been drowning. Like,
I suppose.
doing it for, like, hours.
So they're at this location and William's like, what now? What do we do? Where's the guide? And she's like, oh, it's over there. And it was in a pile on one of the banks. So it had collapsed. It's no longer alive or no longer leading them anywhere. And so he's like, what now? And she's like, well, we have to open up the kingdoms. And so she grabs a stick and does the whole little ritual of twisting it in the water and running around it and saying wood, stone, water, and bone. But nothing really happens. And he's like, is something supposed to happen? I turned to face him. And here we are. There's a price. There's still a price to pay. I sink to my knees. I can't catch my breath. I can't breathe. I can't do it. I can't do it again. Skye? Skye, hey! I try to push him away, but he grips my shoulders, gives me a little shake, kneeling down to look me full in the face. Come on, don't fall apart now. You've got this, okay? We're good. We're fine. We just need to figure out where to go, all right? We can go back up to the path. That keeps going, doesn't it? Or should we follow the water? I don't know, I sob, because I do know. It's laid out before me, what I have to do. One way forward. What they wanted all along. Then and now collapsing into each other, no difference between them. I don't know. I don't know. Hey, he repeats, helplessly, pulling me close, and I press my forehead into his shoulder and cry like I've never cried in my life, in sheer stormy desperation. Someone stop me. Someone wipe this out. Make it a bad dream. I'm hurtling down the tracks, falling from the sky. Eventually I hiccup into hopeless silence. William shifts a little against me, but only to get comfortable, and leans his cheek against my hair. The water chatters endlessly past us. I'm sorry, I whisper into his shirt. It's okay, he murmurs back. It's not. I dragged you down here, and now you didn't, though. You told me to go home, remember? I can't answer. And when I stay silent, he presses on. Look, I made a choice. A stupid one, probably, but, well, here I am. So let's just get through this together, okay? You're a way better person than me, William. I push myself away from him, brace myself against one of the skinny trees instead. You shouldn't be here. Nobody should be here, he returns, unfazed. So let's go get your sister and get the hell out, alright? When I shake my head, he puts his hands to my face, his fingers sliding warm into my hair, his eyes on mine bright and earnest in the twilight. Seriously, he says. Who knows what use I'll be, but you're the girl who'd survive the zombie apocalypse. You can do this, okay? I know it. I clutch his hand against my cheek, without a word to say. If everything is permitted, then I'm allowed to accept this. I'm allowed to pretend it will all be all right for a few more minutes. He leans towards me, hesitant, but every bit closer a question, until his lips meet mine.
Oh, it's exciting, but I know how bad it's about to be.
When my mouth opens under his, he draws a shuddering breath, and I pull him closer, tangle my hands in his hair as his slide up my back. This is where I'll stay, where I'll lose myself, where I'll stop time. But it doesn't work like that, of course, and eventually he pulls away. I wanted to do that since basically forever, he confesses. His shaky smile might break my heart. It hurts to return it. When I reach out to tuck away the hair falling into his face, he leans into my palm, kisses it. I messed up your hair, I say, sniffling, and he laughs, yanks the elastic from it so it falls around his shoulders, starts to gather it up again. No, here, I whisper. Let me.
Oh no.
So, she braids his hair she messed it all up because his hair is long enough to braid. I don't know if I mentioned what any of them
I was
look
about
like.
to say, I was like, I didn't know you had long hair.
I did tell you at one point that he reminded me a lot of you, and that was one of the reasons, but I don't know if I mentioned that was one of the reasons. I think mostly it was his personality of he fits in with kind of everybody. And while she's braiding his hair, she asks him, why do you wear it so long anyway? Because my dad hates it, he says, and then trying to look back at me, why? Do you hate it? No, it suits you. Hold still. One strand over the other. It goes so quickly. Okay. And then, sorry, I'm like reading and trying to see if there's anything else about it, but I'm like, I just love that he's like, fuck my dad. Like, independence. Like, I'm gonna wear my hair long because my dad hates it. And I'm like, that's so cute. And so then he's like, okay, what are we looking for? What do we need? And she's like, well, we need a key and we need a bell. And I'm like, I don't remember that conversation happening where they told her that she needs a key and a bell, but I'm like, she apparently knows. And he's like, well, okay, if the stick is the key to make like, where's the bell? Maybe you need the bell before that can work. And she's like, sure, totally. Yep. It takes me longer than it should to secure the elastic. I inhale carefully, flatten my icy hands against his back, slide them over his shoulders, press my cheek to his. He leans into me with a sigh. When the crook of my elbow closes around his neck, my other arm pressing him down into the choke from behind, it takes him a second to sort out what's happening before his hands fly up to break my grip, to make me let go. And he can't. He doesn't know how. It's not his breath that this hold cuts off. It's blood. So for 10 seconds, forever, his frantic gasps fill my ears as he flails in my grip. Ragged single words. No. Stop. Don't. Worst of all, please. I'm sorry, I whisper into his hair, over and over again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. 10 seconds. I hold him. His hands slacken and drop away. His heels stop their grinding scrabble against the pebbly ground, and he sinks back against me, dead weight. I allow myself one sob, and then I let go. Heave him awkwardly to the side and let him slide to the ground. So sad.
Well, he's not dead currently.
No, he's not. So she's incapacitated him. You're lucky that you knew that he wasn't. I didn't know that he wasn't dead. I'm like, I don't think you can kill somebody in 10 seconds like that, but like something bad is happening and she's like trying to incapacitate him and and that the betrayal he must be feeling and like she's not explaining because when does Sky ever explain anything? She doesn't.
She doesn't explain shit ever.
And so she's incapacitated him and she starts tying him up with the remnants of the guide. There was like some wire and other stuff that she'd used to make it. And so she starts tying him up and he wakes up and is like, what the fuck? And she's like, I am so sorry. And she starts walking into the river and leaves him tied up against a tree. And he's like, Scott, you can't leave me here. And then there's the bell. Like, they hear the little bell, like Mog's cat collar bell. And he's like, Sky, that means the creatures are around, right? And she's like, I'm really sorry. He's like, Scott, you can't leave me here. And he's like fighting against, you know, the binds that she's put on him. And then the creatures do start coming out. And we thought there were only 4 then with the one that she made. No, there's like dozens of them that start coming out. And William is terrified and is screaming. And she's like, I had to sacrifice something. I had to. This is my sacrifice. This is my payment for getting my sister back. She knew that she was going to have to kill William. And she's like, I guess for the monsters, for whatever reason. And she sees one of the monsters kind of leaning over him and has its creepy clawed hand like over his face. And then she's like, I can't look anymore. I'm not gonna. They're closing around him now. He knocks one of them over with a flailing kick, yanks his knees up as a bony hand delicately pulls his shirt back to expose his pale stomach, jerks his head away from the caress of sharp, mismatched bone fingers. And I just watch. I'm cold and sick and very far away. This can't happen. The price is too high. Any second now, he'll break through my makeshift bonds. Any second now, he'll scramble up the slope away from me, back to the real world. But there's no escaping them. I've made them, so there's no escape. They bend over him, and there's just enough space between their bodies for me to see the point of an antler descending slowly, so slowly toward his face. His breathless whimpers fracture into a scream. It goes on, a scream like I've never heard, like Kevin must have screamed. It fills my head, rings into the sky. Do something, I tell myself. Come on. One way or another, you have to do something. Do it now. And I plunge the branch I'm clutching, the key, into the water and twist. The world wheels around me. The sunset light slides from the horizon. Stars bloom overhead. Vertigo sends me to my knees in the water, and I clutch the branch with both hands. It's the only solid thing in the world. The rock sinks away beneath me into soft, sucking mud. William's voice is swallowed up by a tide of delighted, speculative whispers that fill my ears, and then ebb away to the very edge of hearing. Silence finally falls, and I sag dizzily in place, shaking, retching. Nightmare. That's what this has to be. I can't have done that. Oh God, please don't let me have done that for real. But the truth burrows deep past the depths of any roots. Inescapable as a hand pushing me underwater. It comes howling out of me as a wail, an ugly animal sound that fills the whole world and changes nothing. I can't help it. I can't stop my awful hacking sobs any more than I can stop breathing. It can't have happened. It makes no sense. There should have been someone to save him. Instead, there was me. And here I am, without him. Still breathing in spite of everything. Because I have to. I have to keep going. I have to find Deidre. When I can finally lift my head again, the sky is full of a cold green light, shifting and trembling like a field of wheat in the wind, stars glinting through it. The creek that I'm kneeling in is a shining path out into the wilderness, the smooth, glassy water reflecting the lurid sky. The house, the road, the empty lot have been erased. The forest is all that there is, stretching out before me. Fireflies wink through the tangle like stars, but all around me, it's utterly silent in a way these woods have never been, except for the clumsy sloshing of my movement, the rasp of my breath, except for the bell twinkling impatiently in the brush further down the creek, circling back to see if I'm following yet. I won't think any more about what I've left behind. I can't think about it. There was a price, and I paid it. So she starts following this bell through the creek, and I don't know why she's always in the water, like you can't just hop up on shore, but okay, so she's walking through the water. And it starts like ankle deep or whatever, and then it rises up to her knees, and then it's like chest high, and she's like, okay, I can't do this. In addition to that, she also has a real sword instead of her wooden one, so this one's like metal and like crazy, and so she's like holding out the sword as best she can, but she's walking through the water and it's getting heavy and heavy, and then it gets to the point where the water is again chest high, and she's like, nope, not doing this. And she looks up at the sky and is very confused because this is a very weird dreamlike world. This part, I feel like I have to sit with this book a little bit longer to, like, really piece through a lot of the metaphors that are in here and, like, what's going on with it. I turn around and around, holding the sword out before me, sending waves rippling through the wide black pool. Muddy bottom pulls at my feet, threatening to suck me down even further. Was this just some sort of trap in the end? Have they lured me here for nothing? Where is she? Deidre? It comes out weepy, a plea. I raise my voice. Deidre! The word lands like a stone, sending ripples through the shivering light in the sky. The greenish radiance divides itself into a million silent pulsing filaments. Lightning. No. Floating hair, floating high as the clouds. I glimpse a thin crescent moon behind it in a two-horned crown, its points vanishingly sharp. The bare silver trunks of the trees become long pale limbs stepping out of the woods. The dark sky a swath of a robe hanging from the mountains of shoulders. Some sort of giant stands towering over me, too huge to comprehend, stretching across half the sky. I shrink back behind the sword and hold it up in an absurd attempt at self-defense, my face pressed into my sodden sleeve, a beetle not wanting to be crushed. Every breath a sob. If this is a monster I have to fight, then I've already lost. I can't do it. Sorry, says a familiar voice above me, and a hand closes on my arm, feather light, a human hand, though it's luminous as the sky, lit from within. I couldn't tell if it was that Deidre was just, her essence was everywhere.
Like she became the whole...
Yeah, became the woods and the nature and the sky and everything, or if she actually appeared like a giant. Or what? So that was kind of the thing, but like she recognized that there was like something familiar about that lightning and all that kind of stuff. And it was Deidre, and then Deidre says, sorry, and like holds onto her arm. Sorry, Deidre repeats. She's crouched over me, balanced on her bare toes on the water like it's a surface as steady as any floor. I forgot. Is this better? It's just me. So now she's like showing herself in a human form.
All tiny.
Yeah. Her hair streams white over her shoulders, over her knees, glowing against the soft dark of some sort of fabric draped around her. It blurs into the water, into the night, its edges indistinguishable. The moon still lingers behind her head, as if it's been pinned there. It's hard to meet her eyes. They've turned silver, the color of the creek at nightfall. When I'm not looking right at her, the shape of her bones strobes into the surface, outlines flashing in and out of sight like fish underwater. Are you dead? I whisper, and she bursts into peals of laughter. They ring out over the water into the woods. Are you? She giggles, snorting and splashes me with one hand. Come on, ask a better question. It must be a trick. It must be another test, another game, an image of her they've stolen and set loose to trap me. But it's so her. She rocks back and forth on the balls of her feet, biting her knuckles, her face alight with something she can't wait to tell me. I keep the sword up, but I'm blinking through helpless tears. It has to be her. My beautiful, impossible sister. Deidre, I croak. You have to come home. She rolls her eyes, makes a tisk of impatience. No, she says. You're supposed to ask me. Go on. You know you want to. Ask what? She just grins at me. Deidre, please, you have no idea what I've been through to find you. But I do, she says, and her smile widens. You were amazing. You were better than any of our games. I knew you'd come. Seriously, I plead. Please, let's just go. They'll let us go now. They have to. They'd better. Who? Deidre says, glancing over her shoulder. You mean them? When I follow her gaze, the pale skulls of the monsters' faces gleam against the night behind her. They're shambling over the water without sinking. I stagger back a step, choking on rage and panic before hurling myself at them, sword held high to beat them back for her. But Deidre sighs and puts up a hand, and suddenly I'm blundering into a driftwood barrier along a gray trunk that wasn't there before, blocking my path, walling them off. She giggles at my bewilderment, and the sound changes in the air, makes the reeds shiver and whisper. Her mouth moves, but it's their voices that speak, that flutter into the air to touch my face, making me start back in revulsion. Relax, Queen of Swords. Relax. Don't you get it? This is a trick, I cry, leveling the sword. Where's my sister? You promised. Oh, Sky, she sighs in her own voice again. Seriously, think about it for a second. Her smile flickers back to life. Sharpen up! I stare at her. That was you, I whisper. She claps her hands, a delighted squeal escaping her. That was you? The whole time? Isn't it amazing? She beams at me, splashes her hands in the water like she can't contain herself. Isn't it fantastic? I stagger back in the water, almost drop the sword. What did you do? I made myself a kingdom, she says simply, ignoring the whimper in my voice. A new one, somewhere I could start over. And now you can too. But Deidre, you made me. Made you? Deidre blinks. I didn't make you do anything. You did. I could scream. It's not true. It's not real. You made me. You made me. I didn't think you'd actually do it, she says, like it should be obvious. I thought they'd have to drag you in here kicking and screaming. She studies me, smiling. This was way more fun.
Oh my goodness.
Deidre is such a creep. Oh my god.
They're both psychopaths.
They are.
But we already knew it.
But I left him. The words fall like stones, real and irreversible. I left William back there with those things. You totally did, Deidre says. The smile turns misty. I knew you still loved me. What a bitch! I don't know how many times I've called Sky a bitch, but god damn it, Deidre, what a fucking bitch you are! I'm so sorry, listeners. I'm sorry for your holes getting probably, like, blown out. I'm sorry your speakers are probably gonna be destroyed by this, but jeez. Oh my god! Okay, I can't stand still. The thought is cutting me open. I limp away from it, but it's closing in on every side, teeth sinking into me like knives, already done, already decided. I had no choice. I had no choice. This can't be true. This can't be happening. He was nice to you, I cry. He never did anything to you. He shot his own father with an arrow because his friends were in danger. We thought you were in danger. No, she says crisply. He told you himself. He thought he was in danger. Her expression darkens. He thought he could take you from me. Well, you showed him. And now we're together again. Just us. You said you wanted to start over, didn't you? Here's your chance. I was starting over. I was doing fine. With them? With him? Deidre scowls. Who did you think you were kidding? I know you. You're the Queen of Swords. You're the top of the food chain. Compared to you, they're all rabbits. Haven't you figured that out yet? Look what you did to Tyler. Don't talk to me about Tyler. I was trying to protect you. Come on, Sky. I already know you, all right? I know the real secret. You do too. I'm not talking about this. I already fucking confessed. No, you didn't, Deidre says. Not the part that counts. Go ahead. I want to hear you say it. Why did you do it? Hold on. Let me fucking drink real quick.
I'm really excited. I'm waiting for her to say, 'cause I wanted to and I liked it.
It wasn't rage that poured through me. It was something colder. I didn't know yet what I was going to do, but it would be terrible. I did it because I could, I whisper. Because I knew I could hurt him. Deidre smiles, almost gently. And it wasn't just that I wanted him to stop. I wanted to make him stop. I wanted the power to make him stop. That's the word for the sharp, hungry edge that filled me that day, that carried me down through the valley to crouch among the trees, that kept my hand on the back of his head, pushing him down, pushing him under, straddling his back as he bucked and thrashed, unable to escape. I did it because I wanted to. The words are ash in my mouth. I wanted to hurt him. I was stronger than him, and it felt good.
Yes!
Oh my gosh. So I've been editing the episodes lately, and I've found so many times that you just were clocking those metaphors or your predictions on fucking point, my guy. So good. So good. Mine are like off the wall. They're like crazy out of pocket predictions. Yours are like, I bet she liked it. And I'm like, yep,
They kept poking you with the stick the whole time, saying like, there's more here. And it's the standard always like, I did it because I wanted to, and I liked it. Ah! It's a not uncommon trope.
No, it's not.
It was a good trope, though.
It's a good trope, and it's done so well. There, she sits back on her heels. See, you don't belong there any more than I do. Don't you get it? That's what I'm doing here. I'm making a place for us. A place where there aren't any rules. Where we make the rules. But that's not what I wanted, I cry. That's not what I paid for. And what about me? What about what I paid for? Do you think this sort of thing comes for free? Is that what happened to Mog? She withdraws at that, going dim, turns her face away. Everything has a price, she says. And anyway, it doesn't matter. She puts her hand to her shoulder, and for a moment a cloud of shadow gathers there. A long tail, a head butting into her fingers, making the bell ping. We're together now.
Necromancer! She's like, it doesn't matter that I killed it, because I can bring him back.
Exactly. I paid my price to bring you home. I can't go home, Sky. Why not? What's out here? I heft the sword, swing it around in a circle, but there's nothing but the far black line of the trees. Come on out, whatever the fuck you are, we had a deal. Sky, come on, it's just me. Something tricked you. Something talked you into this. You didn't do this all by yourself. Nothing tricked me. She looks away, her brow furrowed, as if she's trying to remember something. Her bones shift and tremble under her skin. We understood each other. Nobody else did. We both felt betrayed and angry. We had the same enemies. Together we could make everything we wanted. Her lips curl in a flash of inhuman disdain. I gave them a way back. A way to hurt the invaders. And a way for me to find you. Who's we? Deidre sweeps a hand across the landscape. The trees, the water, all of this. She sighs at my uncomprehending stare. It's hard to explain, but I paid the price they asked for. There's no we anymore, no they. I'm the woods now. They're me. Spooky!
She's like, we become one, but I maintain consciousness.
I think the woods maintain consciousness too. I think
it did in a way, I think, but I don't think the woods ever really had a a solid consciousness in the way we think it is, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, somehow she made a deal with the woods and became the woods. Okay, I don't like comparing books to each other because I think that authors are, they work really hard and they do all their kind of stuff, but really this reminds me so much of the Wilderwood stuff, where not only are people making bargains with the woods, but people become the woods and stuff like that in both this and that. I'm like, just the parallels that I could draw. Oh, if this was an English class, I would write so many essays. But that's what happened. Deidre was mad because when they moved and she saw Sky moving on and starting over without her, she, spent all her time in the woods anyways and met the woods in some way. She somehow interacted with the consciousness of the woods, and the woods was like, hey, those people over there, they're invaders. They probably deforested me or something like that. I don't really know. She doesn't explain that far.
Yeah.
And is like, so I think we could help each other out. I can help you get Sky, and you can help me get back at the invaders. And
help me get back into affecting the real world again.
And Deidre, being 13, is like, sick, let's go.
Like, that sounds like the best of ideas.
Yeah. And so she goes along with it. She makes her deal with the devil, or the deal with the trees, and I think that's when she died. Because remember how we've been talking about maybe Deidre's been dead for a while? I think she died when she made that deal with them. And then when she was making things, she was dead already, but like alive and not being under the control of the forest because she wanted the same thing.
She had to finish her deal. Like, they made the deal, but then she died but she had to finish the deal in some way.
Yeah. I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
So, I think this is a good place to stop. Sorry, everybody. But we've already been talking for a while. And we'll pick this up next week.
Check us out on Instagram at
A Pot of Sass.
Send us an email
at apotofsass@gmail.com.
Check out our amazing, wonderful, exuberant
Patreon. Is that what you're going for?
Patreon.
Oh my gosh. It's like you've never done a podcast before. God damn it. At patreon.com/apotofsassandSarcasm, where you can donate and join one of our tiers. If you're feeling so inclined, you'll get a lot of extra goodies. And check us out wherever you find podcasts. Rate us, review us, please. It helps us get out there. We hope you keep listening. And we hope you stay sassy.
Later. This feels weird.
That's what I meant. Just jump into the socials. Don't even explain this. We'll just say, I have already said, we're going to stop here. We'll see you next week. And then just, you jump into the socials. Okay. That's what I meant. But then you started talking about other shit. I'm like, okay, fine. We'll try that.
Check us out on...
Whoa, you got to give yourself a break because that's going to be hard to edit. That's not what I mean by a break. Just be quiet.